Why on earth am I starting with sexual trauma? As I said earlier on, I'm starting with sexual trauma because it informs our definition of sex. And as a continent, as a country, as a sub-region, as SADC, as Komsa, and all of those regions and this whole continent, we have a history of trauma. And some of that trauma is sexual, not even some, maybe even more than half of that trauma is sexual. And this particular trauma, in every kind of way possible, informs our definition of sex. Take it off is primarily sex education. And in order to inform people about sex, to make healthy, responsible, informed decisions about sex, we need to understand what exactly do we individuals, as a group, as a society, what do we classify as sex? So yes, there is a lot of stuff that we may classify as sex. Now, definitions of sex may vary from person to person, from community to community. But sexual assault is something that has happened to us as a whole, as a nation, as a continent. And the reason I wanted to start with it is because it's like history. We go and look at history so that we can learn, so we can analyze, so we can understand. And then we can move forward to make decisions in order to not repeat history, hopefully not repeat history. And I know the conversation about sexual trauma is going to be very hard. Like, I struggled to even get through my research today because it is something that happens on an hourly basis, not just in our country, but in our continent. And I wish I could be like Thanos and snap my fingers and make it stop, but I can't. What I can do is speak about it and hope that somewhere somebody will realize what they're doing to somebody else by listing all of those things that sexual trauma results in. You're taking away someone's confidence, someone's childhood, someone's adulthood. You're taking away their love for a particular place in this world. You're taking away their love for going outside and going for nature walks. You're taking away their confidence. I already said that. You're taking away so many things of themselves. You're taking away their self-esteem, their self-confidence. They're going to feel ugly and dirty and damaged and baggage that is just worthless. And that is not fair. But it's happening, and it's being done under our noses in our continent. And I can't stop that. But we can speak about it. Because this very act that is so gruesome, it informs our definitions of sex, whether we like it or not. So, another reason as to why I wanted to speak about sexual trauma today is not only for healing, and then our healing would hopefully transform or evolve our definitions of sex along the way. And then obviously the stats for our country, our continent are horrendous. Remember I said we all deal with it differently. Some people will go to therapy, some people don't. And the reason why I want to connect with you like this, I thought months very long, should I show my face for this podcast? Do I really want to put my face on this? And I thought, I want people to see that I am not some robot person, some image of, I don't know what I would have used to take it off across. It would be, oh, my brain is scattering. I'm so sorry. I want people to see that I'm human, firstly. I'm human, I'm a woman, I'm a sister, I am a daughter, I'm a cousin, I'm a niece, I am someone who experiences things just like everybody else, who deals with things maybe similar or different to you, some other people. But I learned my definition of sex through trauma. between the ages of 6 and 10, what started as molesting graduated to rape. For those 4 years, my number in terms of our statistics may not be in South Africa. It happened in 2 different countries. But I am a number 2. I am one of the numbers that we see in our news, in our stats, on the wherever it is said, on the websites and whatever else. I'm one of those numbers. And I thought, how sad it must be for other women who don't even realize that they are part of this number that is somewhere on a web page or used in a master's thesis or whatever it is, to be this number. And I know that this 1 hour session, or I don't know how long it is, I hope it's not, that's great, will never be enough to tackle sexual trauma. That's why I left next week, Monday, open. Should there be any other comments, questions, and how to deal, to bring across sexual trauma in a way that we can learn from it. And I know that nobody is going to try, I'm not forcing anybody in any way to start their healing journey today or next week or throughout, take it off. It's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to get us to realize that it is unfortunate that we have sexual trauma and that it informs our definitions of sex. My definition of sex between those ages and even until I was 20 was fear. That's it. I am scared. I was scared. I am still scared today. And I'm one of those people who didn't press charges. I know earlier on I made the distinction between people who press charges and people who haven't. And if possible, maybe if there are people who would like to start a support group for victims who have pressed charges and victims who haven't, I would love that. And if I can't do it over Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever else, I would love to one day go to places, go to areas where there are women who go through the same thing, who feel all of those things that I listed earlier on, and just sit with it alone on their own. Because I want them to realize that it's unfortunate these things inform our definition of sex going forward. And even if you choose not to have sex ever again, that's okay. That's up to you. But if you do and you have flashbacks and there are all of these things happening at once, Rape Crisis, which is an NGO, I think it's an NGO, in our country, have a beautiful website. And they tell you all about how to report the crime of rape when it happens to you. They tell you what to do when it has happened to you and how to report it. And they have myths on those things. They also have support groups. Great website, great people, great place. And I know that's mostly in the Western Cape, but there are other things like Love Line or Lifeline. So if you have post-trauma and I triggered you today, I forgot to give the trigger warning. What is my life? I'm so sorry. I forgot to give the trigger warning. But if you are someone who has unfortunately suffered trauma, be it sexual or not, I will post the support lines, support numbers later, like soon after this. And I'm hoping that next week or the week thereafter won't be as somber and sad as this one, but that we will learn from this. This is what we do to people. This is what we take away from people. This is how they then in turn inform their definitions of sex. All I want is for people to make informed, responsible, and healthy decisions about sex. And the reason today I spoke about sexual trauma is so that people can understand and know what it is and what it does to people, and that it's a very individual thing, and that it happens in our country and our continent on a daily basis, hourly basis, and that is horrific and horrendous. I also spoke about it because going forward, to learn about sex, to know all of these things, we need to be comfortable. And this is very, very uncomfortable for me It was very uncomfortable to do this, to speak about this, to research this, to read all of these things, and to know that it happens. And there's very little that we can do to combat it. It is the perpetrator that we need to get to and say, hey, please don't do this. But what is politeness going to get us? So, I am terribly sorry if I triggered you in any way. If I did, there's a WhatsApp button on Facebook. And if not, there's an email button. Or you can comment. Or I will post the trauma counseling lines and the other support groups and other support lines. Terribly sorry. And you can get help. You don't have to start your healing journey today, but it's just stuff that you can know so that you can make informed decisions. Again, if there's anybody I triggered, I'm so sorry. This conversation is very uncomfortable, but it needed to happen. It needed to start so that going forward we can look back at our history and learn and understand, and then go forward and never have to look at it again.